A five-judge constitution bench of the Supreme Court, headed by Justice K.M. Joseph, is hearing a batch of pleas regarding reforms of the Election Commission, seeking a collegium-like system comprising of the Prime Minister, the Chief Justice and the Leader of the Opposition in appointing the Chief Election Commissioner and Election Commissioners, beyond just the criteria of seniority. On the independence of India's top poll body, the Supreme Court today had a pointed hypothesis for the central government. Do you think the Election Commissioner, if he's asked to take on none less than the Prime Minister, just an example, and he doesn't come around to doing it, will it not be a case of complete breakdown of the system?
The system, I've been told, the system is of such magnitude that it doesn't allow somebody to be partisan to an extent to say that it's going to change the formation or going to affect the electoral voting to be compromised in some sense. The whole mechanism doesn't permit that somebody can go rogue. The system, and that's why we are talking of a independence of the institution, and we are not talking independence of the individual. The individual appointment.
Supposing the election commissioner he was asked to take on the none less than the Prime Minister himself.
Please.
Giving an example.
Yes.
Just an example.
We are testing this one.
Hypothetical example. Supposing the election commissioner sort of, is so weak-kneed.
Yes,
that he says, okay, carries with it, he doesn't get around to doing it. Will it not be a case of complete breakdown of the system then? It's just giving an example.
Yes,
the reason being that he is a man who's supposed to be completely insulated.
Yes.
And when you talked about character,
yes,
character consists of various components.
Various components.
Like integrity,
yes,
honesty. But one particular characteristic required is independence.
Well, certainly, yes.
Independence is, like you said, we don't care. One of your election commissioners, in fact, resigned.
Yes.
You don't want to go there.
Yes, Police.
So these are the aspects which perhaps the participation of a larger body,
yes,
instead of the cabinet, which always, as we know, it's only self-serving because it's natural.
Yes.
They would like to perpetuate themselves in power. Any party.
Please
not saying all
yes.
parties will have that.
Yes, all parties, irrespective
of the political color.
Yes.
That is why from 1990, committee after committee after committee keeps reporting. There is a dire need for change. Political parties, leaders keep shouting from the rooftops. But on the ground, nothing will happen.
In any public administration system to say that because Prime Minister is sitting with the President in terms of the conduct of business rules and virtually somebody is be picked up without analyzing that what is the background of the person, how much experience he has got, how much period he has worked, which areas he's worked. There is certainly some kind of an application of mind. In absence of any evidence, which can come in a judicial review before this court, to presume that there is nothing which works except that the cherry picking which goes on. In my respectful submission, these are a convention which has worked for a very, very long time. Today, the assumption to be raised at a point saying that I will not believe you that the process is independent because you are unable to show me each file how it is being done. For the parties, this can be done. If somebody is agreed, one can come forward and disclose all that. But when we are testing an application of an article of the Constitution, and unlike a statutory provision which is to be looked into, whether that kind of incisive examination required to arrive at a finding that we think that something more is required and to be laid down.
Arvind Gunasekara joins us now for more on this. Now, Arvind, that observation by the Supreme Court actually came up yesterday, but this is a case which continues to be heard, and it is fundamental to our independence in our country, the independence of the Election Commission, which governs the entire election process, which lies at the heart of democracy in this country. Therefore, could you share with us what some of the other points were which came up in this bench of the Supreme Court?
Vishnu, the Supreme Court is hearing a very important matter regarding the independence of this poll body, that the Election Commission of India. So a petition was filed in the Election Commission of India way back in 2014, and also 4 other petitions have been filed on date, and all these petitions are asking for a collegium-like system for the appointment of election commissioners and also the chief election commissioner. That's the genesis of this entire hearing. So Supreme Court Constitution bench is hearing this very matter. So the main ground on which the Supreme Court has intervened or taken cognizance of this fact is that as per Article 324, the Election Commission has been given the power to conduct elections in India, and Article 324 of the Constitution also gives the room for a law over the appointment of election commissioners and also the chief election commissioner. Because there is no such law that has been enacted by the parliament on date, and that's why the Supreme Court found it necessary for the court to intervene in this matter, and that's why the Supreme Court is asking such serious questions to the central government. Though the Supreme Court earlier said that in the last 7 years there have been 8 chief election commissioners, that also highlight the point that because of this short tenure, the chief election commissioners might not have the independent character, and that's why the Supreme Court asked the central government to clearly explain the mechanism or the process that is involved in the appointment of election commissioners and also the chief election commissioner. Today the centre told the Supreme Court saying that all the senior bureaucrats are taken into consideration and then they are being appointed as the election commissioners, and based on the seniority, the election commissioner is becoming the chief election commissioner. That was a submission of the central government, but the Supreme Court seems not to be convinced with this argument. The Supreme Court is saying that the man who is appointed as the chief election commissioner, to the fact that election commissioner should have an independent character, because the entire democracy rests with the power under Article 324 with the Election Commission of India. So because Election Commission of India has been given such a constitutional post, it's not some random position. These are the exact words of the Supreme Court, that these are not random positions, but these are constitutional positions, and the man or the person in this particular position should have an independent character. And that's why the Supreme Court also came up with this hypothetical question to the centre, that if at all if there is a case and the election commissioner who is appointed by the government has to take an action against the Prime Minister, what if he doesn't take? In that case, the entire system falls.
Right.
So that's why the Supreme Court raised this pertinent question. Also, very importantly, 3 days back, the central government had appointed Arun Goel, a former retired bureaucrat, as the election commissioner. So the Supreme Court has asked the central government to submit all the files regarding this appointment tomorrow, so the Supreme Court can hear this matter in detail.
Sure. Arvind, thanks very much for sharing those details.